Hi, everyone. We've got a great panel tonight. We have William Henry returning. He was on Candidates for Assange 2 years ago in Indiana's second. Is that right? Running in
Yes.
Indiana's second
Yes, Indiana Second Congressional District.
as a libertarian. And we have Dave Bushaw, who I'm finally meeting. My friend Mitch has told me about a lot about you. Independent in Iowa's also second. So we're going to jump right into it, but I do have a clip that I want to play at the start, and we don't have to stay on this topic the whole time. It's just pertinent because it happened yesterday. It was a panel on impeaching Trump. And I thought this is, we are nonpartisan here. We are all about third parties and independence, and everything we do is nonpartisan. And there were a couple of people that asked good questions. One of the other ones was Diane Sayre, who is an independent running for president, and she was on here just a couple weeks ago. But this question is from Sam Husseini, and I want to play it because I want to ask you guys what you're hearing in your communities, if you're even hearing about this at all. But here we go.
Iran, largely working hand in glove with a foreign.
Oops, sorry. Here we go.
Again, to sort of follow up on a prior question about treason, and one of you saying no one's talking about treason, I think that might be the problem. You have masses of people out there saying that the U.S. went to war against Iran, largely working hand in glove with a foreign government that I don't think has been mentioned on this panel, Israel, and somehow there's no connection to that for being the first reason for impeachment, treason. Maybe this is just a comment. There's this incredible disconnect between what's being said out there and what the so-called analysis is in here, and somehow people are wondering why impeachment doesn't happen. Thank you.
With respect to Sam, the prior commenter, I think there's obviously intense anger for all justified reasons, but also we did impeach him twice in the last administration. And there needs to be some reflection on what was achieved by that and not achieved by that and what will be different. So like I said at the outset, there's no question the offenses are impeachable, but like, what are we going to do that's different? And part of it has to be, I think, making an appeal that is meaningful to people. And that may mean thinking about both rhetoric, but also especially explaining why the things matter, which is what I was trying to get to.
Rob, you came late, so you weren't here for my question in the prior panel, in which I argued that a transpartisan impeachment gets us out of this mantra of making impeachment a partisan issue, where it's for Clinton's sex life or purely partisan things, and that if you have a Democrat and a Republican come forward and saying we will impeach anyone who wages illegal war, and therefore that shames the rest of Congress and creates a new pro-Constitution center that changes the dynamics. So to answer your question, I think I've answered it twice with my comment earlier on this panel and the prior.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying I think we have to think about these things. And that's a theory. And I think this, to what Bruce and others were saying, you know, like it's a process for debating this. Like I don't think we should be sort of dogmatic. I think people, if there's a way, if you know there's a way forward and you're sure you're right, I think you're wrong. Because I don't think it's so obvious how we're going to succeed in holding this president accountable, or how to run an impeachment campaign that succeeds in whatever your measure of success is. So I think there should be conversation and fraternal debate among allies and colleagues about ways to go. And what you're saying?
I don't mean to be distasteful. I'm just saying a
I hear you.
partisan impeachment hasn't been attempted to my knowledge. So.
Well, here, Oliver, I'll give you the debate. Yes, of course, but how are you going to do it? Who are these Republicans standing up to call for impeachment? It's not, they're not lining up.
Massey, who I mentioned in my prior comment.
I want to interject a quick comment here. It just seems to me, thinking more as a historian than a lawyer, which I'm not, though I do hang out with a large number of them, that it is so essential to set the precedent that precedents are subject to the highest form of punishment, whether it's criminal or in a sense political. And then, the fact that other nations manage to do this and we don't, particularly in this 250th year, which I think is going to be a great mockery of the group I've spent 50 years studying as a historian.
You're muted, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Let me unmute Dave as well. Sorry about that. So I just thought it was ridiculous because they never answer Sam's question. And I don't know if you could hear it, and I think I goofed and there wasn't a subtitle there, but he says Massey because he was like, who are you going to get? But they don't, like, I know a lot of the groups that were there, or some of the groups that were there, and they're very partisan. This is all like Democrats talking about impeaching Trump. Like he says, we did this before, but they don't want to address.
Well, Kelly, can I ask, like, if the Democrats and people in Congress impeach and throw Trump out in 2026, how are they going to win the presidency in 2028 if a better Republican comes along now? So they have to keep him there. They have to keep him there, to run on in 2028. If they get rid of him now, they're dead in the water in 2028 possibly. So they probably want to keep him around.
Well, we've got the vice president, and they can always step in, and that's
Right.
what should happen in those instances. But what we're seeing is people doing party protection too in this, and not standing up for the right things. They're standing up together as a party, and they're going to be on the wrong side of history when things come down and come to a head. And a lot of these things that are happening in the executive branch federally. So I think that, look how many appointed staff members and things like that of the president's choice have already been eliminated from positions throughout his cabinet. So they're not looking very good at all. It's a complete disaster up at the federal offices and the executive levels. And they haven't been able to keep control or maintain any of the the people aren't buying it out here. People understand that things are really messed up right now. And the economy is continuing to tank, and all of these things happening, and it's because of these particular choices of the executive branch happening right now. And it goes completely against what they campaigned on too, talking about America first and these type of things. They're clearly showing that Israel and Ukraine and helping them obtain and keep their borders and these type of things are the priority. It's not the American people. Our economy is just absolutely going downhill, and these larger industries and these larger businesses are making record numbers, like your Walmarts and your Amazons and these larger corporations that were really allowed to accelerate in 2020 during the shutdowns. We're seeing a lot of those folks gain a lot of the control, at least as far as markets go. And we've seen a lot of middle-sized and small-sized businesses be completely eliminated because of the economic stressors that happened over the last 5 years.
Right,
Yep.
right. Dave, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, no, there was talk about setting a precedent. And the thing with the two major parties that we see is there's one that kind of comes at things with a large hammer, and then the other one comes with a scalpel. A lot of Democrats would argue that we should commit regime change war by the book. That doesn't make it any more legal or moral. So I don't know what precedent is going to do for us when we have this administration that's unilaterally striking countries that are no threat to us. And then on the other side, there's no moral ground for the Democrats to stand on. Under their administration, they worked harder to stop a railroad strike than they did to stop a genocide, let alone the largest environmental act of terror when the last administration helped facilitate the destruction of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which was the largest release of methane gas or carbon emissions in the history of human civilization. So I don't know where with the morality stands to even hold a precedent to water. So that's why I'm running as an independent, because I think that the majority of people, their morality and ideology does not fall under these two parties that are just morally deficient.
That's right. And don't forget about the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio.
I went to East Palestine, Ohio, because I didn't believe the EPA. Me and a group of Iowans and labor leaders went there. We
I went
saw
there too.
yeah, it was a catastrophe. Those people should be evacuated immediately.
It was awful. I went down to the creeks. That was actually the first thing I did when I was running for office. Is that happened, and I went up there and I did a couple interviews and protested at the town hall that what's her face came. Aaron Brockovich came to. I was at that town
Oh,
hall.
wow.
And Aaron
Okay.
Brockovich was there. And yeah, it was awful. I saw the textbook playbook of cover up. The Ohio EPA is guilty. The whole government. And then anyway, Trump came there a week later. And I came up there and he was throwing fucking paper towels around to
Yep.
the crowd and just acting like he's going to do something. Has he lifted a finger or talked about East Palestine or done anything for that area of the country or anything? But he used it to kick off his presidential campaign. He went into McDonald's and bought everybody there, and that's what he likes to do. But yeah, so don't forget about that. Like the Nord Stream, East Palestine, like the bunch of corrupt crooks.
Well, that's why I
The only
have
thing that I know of that's been done.
Oh, no. Please go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was going to say, the only thing that I know that's been followed up with the East Palestine, Ohio rhetoric that happened in the president's campaign is that I think they set up some kind of EPA monitoring and research facility in the basement of one of the churches in East Palestine, Ohio. And that's the furthest action that's happened out of this administration. And that doesn't give any credence to the last administration either. The state of Ohio was pleading for the Stafford Act, and Biden didn't move on that either.
Or we can even go back to Flint and Obama. I mean, this is why I have on the candidate pledge, I felt like I don't feel like environmental issues should be divisive, but I think sometimes when it's has more broad appeal when it's things that are in people's backyards. I think that's somewhere to start. And we have I remember this from back in 2018 when I was first interviewing candidates. These things just kept coming up in every candidate's district. There was some kind of toxic waste dump or some other environmental hazard. So it's across the country. And if we can't start there in our own backyard, I don't know how we can.
I'm surprised people out there, didn't just cut down a tree and have it accidentally fall on the railroad tracks. I mean, the way they screwed over their town and those people and their children, I'm really surprised something like that didn't happen to that railroad out there, with some sort of destruction. I mean, the way that what they did to that town. And secondly, maybe I don't know if you had a question or Kelly or Shift, but on the way of environmentalism, something I just recently got involved with around here in Ohio. Ohio is ground zero and tip of the spear of the latest major environmental concern going on right now, which is data centers in people's backyards. Are you guys all hip to that? Ohio has a constitutional ban right now that we're gathering signatures for to get on the ballot to ban large-scale data AI data centers. They have a proposed one going on here in southern Ohio that's going to be the biggest in the world. The biggest in the world. It draws as much electricity as New York City is one of the organizers was telling me. So
Wow.
if anyone wants to jump in on that and comment on data centers, big government, pollution, where do you stand?
And the tax breaks and some of these things that these large places are getting, the counties, and what they're doing is they're meticulously going county to county and skirting, the state or even anyone really recognizing what they're doing. And they did this with windmills and some of the other things too when they conduct this type of business. But they go directly to the counties and the county councils and the people who have the money and the decisions about the taxes and the money to be able to influence votes in their favor to get these type of benefits in these communities by offering, so many jobs that, it's going to be beneficial to the area. And that's the way that they kind of roll it into these counties to make it attractive, that it's going to be a moneymaker or somehow make money, but they end up getting water discounts, electrical discounts, these type of things that really put a strain on the county resources. And that all falls onto the taxpayers in the local county area to make up for that. So the taxpayers would actually have higher property taxes and things like that the more that these centers start popping up and the more benefits that these county levels start giving these people.
Well, I'm going to pull up some comments that are in the chat in a second. I'll put them up. But I noticed something last night. Another one of the candidates that has been on here, oh my gosh, Jose Vega, who I know you know, Michael. He did a debate, and they were, I think it was Michael Blaze or Blake was giving him a hard time for saying that he would have worked with MTG if she was still in Congress, and would work with Massey. And I just want to point out on the environmental stuff, I don't know if any of you guys saw this, but she was like sounding like Erin Brockovich in her community, because there was this, I think it's called Vanguard Waste Management, no like connection to Vanguard, but they were wanting to come in her community, I think somewhere in northern Georgia, and put this thing in. And it was a huge crowd of people there protesting it. But I mean, she sounded like Erin Brockovich. So I just think that that's another example of like, I personally don't care what letter you have by your name. And I think more people are getting that way. They're paying attention to your actions, not the label. So, but I'll pull up, let's see, someone, I believe Rustin is a part of the Independent Candidate Network. I hope I'm right about that. I haven't met him yet, but he says, yeah, both sides are tired of their parties. Democrats have yet to achieve free health care, and Republicans have failed term limits. Libertarians have yet to gain a congressional search since Ron Paul, maybe Massey, but they hold their own. If libertarians want to make a mark, win a congressional seat. Yeah, and I think, I do feel like, Massey is, I think, actually libertarian, and it shows, and he's up against his own party. But another reason
Hey,
to
what's
run.
up, Rustin? Just want to say what's up to Rustin. I know him, or met him.
Oh, you do? Okay. And then someone else, oh, it's Mitch. He says in Dave's district has the most data centers. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, we've got some big data centers that are coming to our rural area, and I live very, very rural. We talk about counties, and these data centers are getting set up in counties. Folks, they're not planting them in the middle of New York City. They're not planting them in the middle of San Francisco. They're planting them in communities like mine. Closest town to where I live has 54 people in it. The next closest town has 400. You go about an hour away to the largest, one of the larger population centers that has any kind of infrastructural capacity, manufacturing capacity, and that's the Cedar Rapids area on I-20, and that's where they're putting them at, in these rural areas. And just like Brother William was saying, they're taking advantage of the ease of access with local supervisors, county supervisors, local city councils to achieve their agenda. The way that I look at these data centers is that this is a new emerging technology, and just like with the space race, there was a federal guiding principle. We had a federal guiding principle and goal that we were trying to achieve. Same as with the expansion of the railroad. We had a federal guiding principle connecting the east and west coast with the Transcontinental Railroad. We need that same kind of guidance and regulation at the federal level. Same as around nuclear energy. We finally are moving out of, a whole population that was scarred and traumatized by the.
Oh, is that on Dave's end? I believe so. You guys hear?
For nuclear energy, they need out.
Oh, there he is.
Okay,
You're
we
back.
just was spotty for a second. Well, I do notice, my daughter who's 21, she is adamantly against AI. And I know all the kids, they care about this a lot. So, I think I hadn't been paying enough attention to it. And I heard Greg Stoker, who's a Green in Texas, was talking about it.
Yeah, he's running on it, and it's really taken off like wildfire. I wasn't even planning on getting involved in the campaign, and I feel myself kind of getting sucked into it because it's making me feel alive, because I'm taking a break from political work this year and then running in 2028. But I was just trying to hang out on Saturday with my wife at one of her friends' birthday parties, and then one of her mom's friends came, and she's got a stack of petitions. I'm like, oh, what do you got? And she's part of the group to ban data centers here in Ohio, and the Attorney General just approved the language. So this is the first week. We're about 3 or 4 days into this. We only got about 90 days to do it. So it's a tall measure. But let me tell you, why I might get involved is because the enthusiasm is off the charts. and it's left and right. So it's kind of like filling up my cup, if you will, restoring faith in humanity. And, it's not, and it's a good class war issue. It brings a lot of people together. And it's a lot of Republicans that are against it because they're the farmers out in these rural areas. And, the 50 jobs, the 30 to 50 jobs, a skeleton crew from one of these large data centers, that's all the jobs that it brings. And a lot of those jobs of that 30 to 50, they're not even from the local area. These will be specialized like IT workers brought in.
Mhm.
So, when they say it brings jobs, it does in the construction phase. That is correct. But
Mhm.
after they leave, you got the environmental damage, the noise pollution, the light pollution, and the raising electricity rates. And what's going on in Ohio is we have 200 data centers currently and 100 more in the works. And what this Ohio's constitutional ban will do is it only bans the super large ones. I think it's like 2.5 gigs or gigawatts or something like that, or it's something to do. So it only goes after the much larger ones. So like smaller ones aren't as much of an impact, and those ones are I guess have been around for a little while. But anyway, so I'm excited to be a part of it. That's going on here. Ohio's kind of like leading the nation. We're the tip of the spear for this. We're kind of like ground zero for this right now, and it's young, old issue. It's great. So anyway, like stay
Wow.
tuned, I guess.
And the government really has their fingers in a lot of that stuff too, because when we talk about the surveillance state and these type of things, they're really invested in these type of places too to help store that data, to help back this stuff up. It's not only that, it's Bitcoin mining and a number of other things too that are happening from a number of companies. But the federal government itself has a lot of interest in these data centers to help them with their overall web and surveillance state. And our devices, they collect all this data, and all this data is absorbed through all these apps and saved in these locations as well, building those files that the NSA has on every individual inside of America.
Yeah, and that's another thing that is on the pledge. I listed William Binney, who's the former director of the NSA. He proposed that there be an independent group or organization that can oversee basically the surveillance state. And I find it very disappointing that, it's sometimes we laugh at it, but a lot of the older members of Congress don't seem to have a clue. They're like, oh, my granddaughter who's 10 helps me with my phone. And you see Massey, who's been, really leading on a lot of different things. But he seems to be one of the few that gets the tech. And so I think even if you're not a particularly techie person, we need all kinds of people in Congress. We need farmers, we need tech people, we need everybody. But I think you have an obligation because, as Bill Binney said to me, if you don't know, and he said a lot of them don't want to know because then it's like plausible deniability because they're not upholding the oath to the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment. So I think we need to put public pressure on people running for Congress just to say, hey, if you don't know and you don't understand the stuff when NSA comes in here and tells you whatever, you have an obligation to look into it and to lean on other people that maybe know the tech more. But anyway, I think that's really important. But yeah, that is really scary, the surveillance, the scope of the surveillance state, and it has been growing for decades. So yeah. Dave, what do you think about young people I think are just inherently more tech savvy, but what do you think about that, establishing that kind of a group?
I think it's tough. I think that the political vitriol that we've seen in this country, at least for my generation, I'm 31, a lot of the folks around me are just completely disengaged from politics, not just because of what they've experienced, in many cases for people in their 20s, for their entire adult life, the last 10 years. That's kind of hyper escalated back and forth with no solutions. But I think that it's also economic considerations, right? Like what has the system ever done for them? So I don't know if young folks are really even invested in this because why get invested in this if anything else they've ever tried to be interested in investing in has never been delivered on. Why get interested in buying and owning a house? Why get interested in a career when you know your future is going to be gig jobs? So I think that we've just got an entirely disengaged and disenfranchised younger generation, and it scares me. It scares me that we've got 3 branches of government and only one of them can operate at the expediency that the 21st century demands. That's the executive branch. Judicial and the legislative, they move at a snail's pace, but executive is now. And that's what a lot of folks these days that are connected to technology are familiar with is now, the now deliverables. So I really am not optimistic about the power that is with young folks right now, but I see the potential, the kinetic power to mobilize. I don't have an answer as to what's going to get them to move. We're already so beaten down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And is this your first time running for office, Dave?
I ran for Soil and Water Conservation Commissioner in my county in 2020. I won. And then in the evening, they told me that they mixed up the results and I didn't win. And I wasn't going to call election. I wasn't going to call election fraud in 2020. I wasn't going to get into that bucket.
Oh boy, you brought that topic up. Okay, I'll make this very quick. I won't play a clip, but you can go on Twitter and find it because Diane Sayre was also at this impeachment panel thing, and she brought up the topic of election fraud. And I want to be very careful when I say this. We at No Peasants do not push any kind of unfounded election fraud conspiracy theories, and it happens on both sides of the aisle. I witnessed it on Democrats doing it this last time around, but Diane had some weird stuff like that happen too that was well documented. So that is also a topic that I think candidates they have to tread softly, but we need to be talking about how to make elections more transparent and verifiable. So we do hold meetings on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. We have very knowledgeable IT security people and data scientists and activists that are just interested. You don't have to be a tech person if you're interested in learning about election integrity. I know it's kind of a dry topic, but it's Tuesdays at 8. So if you're interested, please let me know. And I think more people will get interested as we get closer to the election and things start happening, like what you experienced. There are a lot of anomalies that can be explained. So, you were talking about the executive branch and just Michael, when you brought up the fighting against the data centers, we also had a judge on here recently, or a former judge, Karen Ortiz, and we got talking about how there's so much, like, people can't fight against the court system, and you're like, you need a lot of money to have lawyers. And I thought of William. I thought you might want to talk about your organization that you have started, Liberty Offensive. I don't remember the specifics about it, but I wanted to hear more.
Liberty Offense, I started it a few years ago, and what it is, it's an advocacy organization. It's a 501c4 organization. You can visit our website at libertyoffense.org. But we help, coordinate executive help with people that want to blow the whistle on government and proprietary activities. We help people getting bullied in their local area by their local government, trying to kick them off their own property, rezoning things, and we've helped, like we held a truckers rally a few years ago when they were going to DC and other places to stop the mandates. So we held a fundraising rally for that. And we gained $15,000 for a group of truckers to head out to DC in supplies and food and gift cards and things like that would help them along the way to really push to end those mandates and stop all of the things associated with the shutdowns and COVID and those type of things. So we were really successful. They came home. We gave them a welcome home rally there at the State House too, and they parked illegally out front, and blowing their horns and those type of things. But we let the state house know what was going to happen. We prepared them and at least advised them. We didn't ask for permission, but we worked with them, and we worked directly with the administrations and those type of things, inspectors general, secretaries of state, and those type of things. But we've been pretty successful with a couple handfuls of cases that we've been able to help advocate and activate for, and really educate the public and the government about how the conduct should be going, and helping hold those people accountable.
Okay, so it's not specifically legal help. It sounds wider than that, but it's something I think needs to be everywhere.
Absolutely, and we've partnered with other organizations too, like You Are the Power with Spike Cohen and those type of things. So there's networking that we're able to do and conduct with other not-for-profits and those type of things that do similar type of things to help people in local areas. And we're focused mainly in Indiana, and we worked all throughout the state, but we've also helped with other things out of the state, like down in Kentucky and in Michigan, and those and areas around the region.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I'll tell very briefly. I myself was a plaintiff in a case against a prior landlord who, just blatantly violated building codes. I was renting during the pandemic, and it's been an ongoing battle. Like the court system, even with obvious, well-documented violations that are against state codes, you're fighting an uphill battle. So when Judge Karen Ortiz came on, our former judge, I just thought it was really great that she had this idea to start a website, and it was called, I think it was Pro Say, SAY, and as a resource to help people that are fighting these things, because we see things happen like when the ice shootings, and then it's like all this dramatic, awful stuff happens, and then you hear, oh, it's going to go to court, and I don't even know what's going on with that case, Alex Preddy, but it's years later, and is there really any justice? And we of course saw with the Assange case how long that took, and it's torture. It's so I think it's something that regular people need to find a way to be empowered in dealing with this kind of stuff, fighting whatever data centers or anything, because we don't have power. It's held in the court system a lot of the time.
Absolutely. I want to know, guys, tell us what's going on with in your neck of the country. What's going on with the state of your race? Tell us about the enemies of the people that you're running against in the major two parties, and let us know what's going on. Let's start. Let's bring Dave in. Dave, what's going on out there in Iowa? Who are you running against? And what are they? Are they championing the war in Iran? You're muted.
Thanks, Michael. Good deal. So out here in Iowa's 2nd Congressional District, it's the second largest geographical district in Iowa, but it also has some other interesting factors to it. We have more registered independents here per population than any district in Iowa. We have more registered independents than Democrats or Republicans by tens of thousands. And statewide in Iowa, just this month, we finally passed more independents statewide registered than Democrats or Republicans. In this district, 13 of the 22 counties are national pivot counties that went hardcore Obama twice to hardcore Trump 3 times. So I believe that in Northeast Iowa, prairie populism still exists, the OG prairie populism that we read about. The folks that are in the race, so Ashley Hinson was our state representative. When Joni, We're All Gonna Die Ernst, shot herself in the foot and got forced into early retirement, Ashley Hinson was the only likely successor to her, but there was no successor lined up for Ashley's seat, so it's a very open race. There were 9 candidates in the race, I think 5 Democrats and 4 Republicans. It's now down to 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans and myself. As for competitiveness, we're not accepting any APAC, super PAC, backpacks full of money. So we're not bringing in such a slush fund as the other 2 candidates are reporting on, but we're keeping pace with them. We have over 10,000 followers across our social media, and we started 4 months later than anybody else. We're contending to have more social media followers than any candidate in the race. We've got 54 pieces of local news that have been published, not including podcasts and radio, which is more than all the candidates in the race combined. As for the folks that are running, Michael, on the Democratic side, there's a retired Army veteran nurse. Her name's Kathy Dolter. I have a lot of love and respect for her. She's the only other candidate than myself that's calling for Medicare for all in this race.
Oh, good.
But she's arguably the underdog. I think the Democratic establishment chose who their candidate was going to be years ago, and that would be Lindsey James. She is a pastor from the Dubuque area, one of the larger cities. The other candidate is also a pastor from one of the larger cities, Cedar Rapids. And on the Republican side, we have Charlie McClintock, who's a pro-labor Republican. And then we have a 28-year-old organizer and founder of Run Gen Z, Joe Mitchell, who's running. So he's a very intelligent, formidable opponent. And I think the best person to be the 28-year-old organizer is a 31-year-old better organizer.
So you said Run Gen Z?
Run Gen Z. It's what they are is their national organization, and he's the founder of it. And they recruit young conservative candidates to run for local office across the country.
Okay. So it's on the conservative side. Okay.
Yes.
I'm really curious because, the independents, I'm sure you guys all know, it's now like 45% across the country. And among Gen Z, it's 56%. But I've read some studies where getting those Gen Z people to the polls is really the problem. So, I mean, do you have any ideas about that, either of you? Like reaching the Gen Z, how do you get them to even feel like voting matters?
Sure. Well, what I was just speaking from my own personal experience, I'm a young fella, so I understand technology pretty well. I think that that's core in modern races. And also just authenticity, just posting videos, talking to people, asking questions, not having everything sound like some bullshit political spiel. I don't look like a candidate. I also don't look like a farmer, but I'm the average working class person. And so I know how to talk to folks, and it's going to be engaging with folks through online mediums quite a bit, getting out and meeting people where they're at. I think people are hungry for community, and you have to provide that opportunity. So, if you got the stuff to do it, it's going to be just getting out there as much in person and online as possible to reach those folks that grew up in a lockdown. A lot of these young folks, their entire formative years were locked in their house. And so it's going to take some encouragement to get them to get out and participate, that let alone just the disenfranchisement that they experience in the general system,
Right. Yeah. William? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of apathy right now with a lot of young voters, especially. They feel like their voice, won't be counted or they couldn't make a difference. But they don't understand that if we all stand up in unison and vote the opposite direction, that we can get some real change outside the two-party system. And I've always, I've learned to use this analogy of going out in the woods with a party of people. And if you're led into the woods and you get lost, and they continue to get you lost, are you going to continue to listen to these people to try to get you out of this situation? And at that point, someone else has to take charge and take lead and lead everyone out of the woods and back into civilization. And right now we are way off of course, and the Republicans and the Democrats got us here. It wasn't any other party. It wasn't any other, sections. These people in the executive, judicial, and legislative branch have brought our government to this point. So at what point do we as a society choose the opposite of what we've been choosing? When do we choose the opposite of insanity? Because the same thing is happening over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tell us about your race, William. Tell us about the war criminals you're going up against and the enemies of the people.
Well, the incumbent is Rudy Yacom. He has won the last 2 times that I have ran against him. I actually ran against him 3 other times. This is because there was a special election because Jackie Walorski was this district's representative, and she had passed away while in office, so we had to have a special election along with the general election. That year that she passed away, Rudy Yakum did not speak publicly at any of the events that I was at. He did not come out and get asked the hard questions from the general public. He did not face these people who he was potentially going to be representing. He went to closed meetings. He went to the corporations. He went to all of the big businesses and serving those interests rather than the people. Of course, he's an APAC receiver. He gets a lot of money from those influential things, and he's voted in favor of supplying this foreign funding to Israel, supplying the bombs that land on these schools during school days, when we know as a military, and I'm former military myself. I was a photojournalist for the military for almost 10 years. I deployed twice and served on a number of stateside and federal missions for the National Guard, and covering numerous stories that our brave troops were doing in the local area all the way to other countries. And to know that we have GPS down to the centimeter square at this point, and they knew exactly what they were doing. That was captured on video of the evidence of the Tomahawk missile hitting that school in Iran. Pete Hegseth gave the signal, and those underlings, those officers, followed that order, and they struck that school, knowing quite well during the school day what they were doing. And unfortunately, the United States has a lot of innocent blood on their hands and direct evidence of doing so that it hasn't even been directly addressed yet in the way that it should be. And, Hegseth and some of these other people need to be held accountable for a lot of these things that are happening right now. And Congress needs to be held accountable for funding this and allowing this to basically build up to this point and get us involved in a war like this. And they've literally been walking us down this road for more than 30 years. Netanyahu has been talking about the next 3 months, the next 30 days, these people are going to have these type of weapons, when they are getting built up and they are getting supplied by the United States and our military resources and our munitions. And that's what they're using right now against all of these people to try to expand their own territory. And it's not about living peacefully anymore. These people are literally attacking their neighbors and attacking everyone around them, using the force of the U.S. military munitions and our tax dollars to do so.
There's I won't play it now because it's too long, but I was at the National Press Club 2 weeks ago. It was Eisenhower Media Network, and Ray McGovern was hosting it. But former, I think she was a captain, Josie Gilbo, they're coming to Ohio, Michael. I'm not exactly sure where. I'll look it up. But I know I think maybe this weekend. But it's Eisenhower Media Network. And anyway, the clip that I made is where she's talking about exactly what you just said, that the cameras and everything on those Tomahawk missiles. And she called out the officers that did it by name in this clip. But yeah, there's no excusing it. That, she says it was clearly a school that's, painted with murals and.
Wasn't there chalk on the sidewalk outside the school? I heard.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm. But I'll post the clip again somewhere under this broadcast on Facebook so you can see it. But yeah, I mean, there's no. I guess at least we are more informed and more aware. I mean, years ago we might not have been able to know this, but I think the apathy does kind of set in because I think, okay, well, what can we do about it?
It's wild. I am continually, sorry to cut you off, I am continually shocked. We lived through Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam, and people are still drinking the Kool-Aid on Iran. Is anyone else in here shocked? Just as shocked as I am?
Well, that's what that whole panel was about. Ray McGovern went into all the lies, everything that happened before the Iraq War, and I'm sure William can speak even more
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, they literally have planned this for decades, and they're going by what they call the master plan. And you know, we attack all of these other countries. We got rid of Gaddafi, who wanted the gold standard in his country. We called him a terrorist, that he was killing and hurting his own people. You know, we supplied the munitions and things to attack that embassy too, and that's what a lot of people don't talk about either. That we supplied these forces to do these malicious things as well, to draw us in on this. And with the CIA operatives and a number of things overseas, there's a lot of coordination happening to give appearances and to coordinate the communications for civil operations and what they call information operations, which is basically psychological warfare on a lot of these folks and on the United States and our media, which for a long time it's been known that, you know, operatives are in our own media and they work with the government to help spread mis and disinformation, and they call it matters of federal security. And those are the types of things that we really need to attack in Congress. Those are the types of things that we've given too much, basically, power to the executive branch to dictate emergencies and to dictate when they're going to drop bombs on places and things like that. They've literally lent their powers of Congress to the executive branch to allow them to make emergency situations and basically do whatever they want on the executive side under the guise of an emergency situation. And
Yeah, one of the other speakers at this event, Michael Vlahos, I think he writes for Responsible Statecraft, he and Kelly Vlahos. He was talking about that. But I wonder, it seems like you only hear people on the Republican side complaining about NGOs, but isn't that where a lot of the CIA like operational stuff happens? Is in those, and it's really hidden.
Oh yeah, and we're all over the place, and a lot of those people who are protesting in Iran were probably on some sort of payroll to do that, and that's probably what the Iran government was attacking when they were attacking people who were protesting, were those smashers. And we saw those people, like in 2020, when all of these insurance claims went out because of these large realty companies that weren't getting money from businesses that rented and leased property during that time. We saw a lot of their windows getting smashed in a lot of these metropolitan areas on TV during the protests and things like that. So what did that result in? That resulted in insurance claims, and they got them money during that time when they weren't getting money from their tenants for those properties as well. And
Interesting.
a lot of people don't understand that, but you have these operatives doing these type of things out in the public, and it's a small group of people, and that's probably who they were targeting, doing this foul network type of stuff.
They were attacking police and killing police officers, and so very violent people. Same as in same as in Ukraine in 2014 with the Maidan Revolution. Those people were attacking police stations and attacking police officers, and our leaders at the time want to call them just protesters, but it's like, what would you call a group of people here in the United States that was attacking police officers and harming police officers? I don't think anybody would support that, but yet when they do it in other countries, it's good. And so I just want that to be, look, there's times maybe when you got to fight the government, like when they're really oppressive, but when you're just stirring the pot, like is what it looked like in Maidan and Ukraine and in Iran with these paid people from Israel. And so, yeah, you got to see through these narratives. And I just wanted to point that out. Dave, you want to jump in and talk about this tyranny?
I didn't catch you. You cut out there for a second. What was that, Michael?
I said, do you want to jump in and talk about this tyranny that we're seeing? The CIA running around the world, and Israel running around the world, supporting, homegrown domestic terrorism in other countries, supporting vicious rioters that, like destabilize governments and stuff like that. And, the hypocrisy that, we wouldn't allow that back here at home if anybody was attacking police officers, unjustly and, killing police officers and stuff like that. But yeah, just overall, just comment on, the tyranny of the United States foreign policy, Iran, and, where you see, it going.
Sure, absolutely. I think that the hypocrisy of the United States is something that doesn't miss most Americans. I think the government kind of assumes that most of us are pretty stupid and we don't know what's going on. I don't think that's the case. I think most of us are very aware and very informed on what's going on, especially with the advent of technology, watching genocide in 4K, watching a lot of this new excursion in Iran, this war in Iran in 4K, and getting live updates, live leaks, all this information at our fingertips. They just know that we have, they assume that we don't know what the power is that we have to combat it, which is our two hands. These are the most powerful weapon that a person has, is their two hands when they put them into their pockets. And that's the real power of the working class in this country that we need to help folks realize and actualize if we want to get anything done. We talk about Iranians, using civilians as human shields, or the Palestinians using humans as civilians as human shields. We've moved our military personnel off of bases and we've integrated them into Iranian populations in hotels and other businesses. We're using them as human shields. We're doing the same damn thing that we accuse our adversaries of doing regularly. And back in the United States, there's no consequential relief for the working class. Like you've said, it's Brother William. These folks have led us into the wilderness, and the founder of my union, Brother Eugene Debs, one of the founders of the Industrial Workers of the World, said, "For too long, the workers have waited for some Moses to lead them out of the wilderness. I would not lead you out if I could, because if you could be let out, it means you could be led right back in again." What he wanted is for folks to realize that there's nothing they cannot do for themselves. And that's, I think, that's the modality that we need to practice when we're reaching out to working class folks, when we're reaching out to voters, is that, yes, you have the power to combat this. And if we get in there, we can break the super majority on either side of the tug of war where they pull an inch one way or another. We can finally force some change on a lot of these things. Right now, there's legislation in Iowa championed by 6 Republicans called House File 429. And what that would do is it would ban Iowa National Guard from being deployed into active combat zones not authorized by United States Congress. For one reason or another, you can't get a plurality of Republicans or Democrats to back something like that, which is exactly where we should be on a national scale. They should be pulled into these conflicts. Congress should do their damn job, but I think we all know why they don't. And that's because the only reason that they're there and have that consolidated power is because they're millionaire and billionaire donors in the weapons manufacturing industries and the pharmaceutical industries and those that profit off of these conflicts. That's another reason why I think that Congress is so comfortable letting the executive hold a lot of the powers that they do, is because they know the alternative is letting the working class hold that power, and they know it's not going to go well for them if they do that. Just to end, one thing I'm advocating for in my campaign is national ballot initiatives. In 22 states across this nation, and I think even in Ohio, you were saying, they have ballot initiatives where if you can collect enough signatures, you can get an issue on the ballot to vote on, and then the legislature in that state is obligated to incorporate that into law. We don't have that here in Iowa, and I believe that we need it at a national level. If we want to tackle some of these things Congress won't touch. Term limits, campaign finance reform, reform around declarations of war, whatever it may be. We look at 2024, in states where they have ballot initiatives, marijuana, abortion, they either won or almost won. And while I think representative democracy, William and I running for Congress, I think representative democracy still has its place. But in the 21st century, where we're so connected, I think that it's going to be beneficial to give the working class more ownership over their country and participation through direct democracy initiatives.
Wow, definitely. William?
Well, I've been focused on definitely federal finances, reducing and eliminating wasteful foreign conflict budgets, really just reducing federal agency budgets and personnel, eliminating fraud, waste, abuse, and grow and promote U.S. businesses. That is a very important thing in today, especially our economy. It's it's very bad, and a lot of people are suffering with the rapid rate of increase of how much things are costing, and the taxes that are being applied to those things that cost, because you have to pay more tax the more that something costs, and the government is getting more money during that inflation too. And we could really help by lowering that amount of money that we're taking from individuals and putting more money into their pockets. National
right.
defense and veterans care. Strong national defense, but we don't want to be spending it everywhere else. We want to be able to protect our country. We want to be able to respond to emergencies here. We've seen, EPA and some of these other responses domestically. It's been absolutely horrible. It's been terrible, and we haven't been able to respond to emergencies. Even during Hurricane Katrina, weren't even able to respond during that time to federal emergencies happening. So we really need to focus on our country, put our country first and make sure that we're putting American citizens first. And we've seen these videos online of who do you support more, this country or your constituents? And these people won't even answer that the constituents are important, because in a lot of places they've got it locked down, and they've got gerrymandering of some of these districts and things like that. So we've got these people literally, like I was talking earlier, Rudy had never showed up to any public thing. He never showed up to any public meeting, but he still won the election. He still won the popular vote. And that's absolutely, you can't compete with that type of money in your local area. It's very hard, even when you're doing all of the right things. And
How did the breakdown, if you don't mind me asking, how did your last election go? Like, how much vote percentage did you get? Were you able to poll?
It wasn't very much at all. It was over
That's okay.
3%.
That's what I got. I got 3.1 as an
But
independent.
but breaking through, you can't compete in your local radio, your local TV, and those type of things.
The guy I ran against was the same as yours. Never showed up to any events. I don't even know if he even campaigned, to be honest. I don't even know if he put a mailer out in the mail or literally anything. Like literally nothing. He's been in for 24 years, Mike Turner, and former head of the Armed Services Committee, and just the dude, just literally, we call him Missing Mike in our district. And no town halls, hasn't done a town hall, doesn't go to any events other than like private events, and then he announces that he was there afterwards. But yeah, exactly what you were saying. Never shows up, never does anything, but he's got the R next to his name, and that's all that matters.
He's there for the pictures. He's there for his closed and captive audiences, but he isn't there for the public. He's there for his corporations and his donors and those type of things, but he's not serving the people.
Well, do you either of you know the voter turnout in the last election for
I do.
in your district? You do.
Well, I mean, I know nationally it was around like
Oh yeah.
75, 78% or something like that.
No, turnout is less than 65%.
Nationally?
Yes.
For the presidential election?
88 million people, eligible voters, didn't vote.
Are you sure, Kelly, on that?
I looked it up. It's on the website. I can double check the number right now. But
is that during the midterms? But no, I thought 70.
It may be in certain, but this was nationally. Hold on, I'm pulling it up.
Nationally, I think we were around 75, 78%, something like that. Nationally, maybe low 70s. Nationally,
voter turnout was 64%, over 88 million. I mean,
okay.
We can. I'll look again, but that's what I want.
Okay, that's all right.
But I'm always curious about that, and every candidate. And I didn't look at each of your districts yet, but I think, and I'm going to pull up this cartoon again. I mean, it's so obvious this is the answer, but it's like, how do we get those 88 million people out? And I think, they've done studies when you ask people who don't vote, why don't you vote? They say the same things. I mean, I don't think it's going to matter. It's the apathy, really, right? And I think that those people would absolutely vote more for either of you two and you, Michael, when you're back in. So how do it's like if they could just see this cartoon, and that you do have that power, but it's going to take everybody getting out and actually.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, Kelly. Dave, do you
Yeah.
want to say a closing message before you got to jump off? You put in the chat.
Oh, he has to go. Yeah. Please
Yeah, I
do.
apologize. I do have to go back-to-back interviews here.
No, that's
The last
okay.
thing that I would say is that you know, with this campaign, we're offering folks a chance at self-determination rather than fear and desperation, which is offered by the other two parties. I think Nina Turner put it best when she said, you know, the two parties are like offering you two bowls of shit and you're told you only have to eat half. I love that quote from her. So if people wanted a different option, they can check out our campaign at davebushaw.com. And I hope to earn folks' trust and support in this campaign as the strongest pro-labor, pro-working class, poor-working poor candidate. So I want to thank you both, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again in the future. And it was a pleasure to meet you, William. Best of luck in your election.
Good luck, Dave.
See you, brother.
Yes, thank you so
Thanks,
much for
folks.
coming, Dave. It was great to finally meet you. I heard a lot about you.
Absolutely. Later, folks.
And I didn't get a chance to crack my joke here, but I was going to tell you when you were saying he doesn't look like a candidate. He looks like my uncle in the 70s, but he became a banker.
I love it.
And a yuppie. But anyway. Okay, so I guess we'll end it there. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And let's see, next week we have a Green, and we actually have a former independent that is running Republican. And I kind of had this rule, like we weren't going to have the major party candidates on. But it has cropped up here and there, and I know this person, and so he's going to come on. He's running in Utah. But okay, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you, William.
See you later. WilliamHenry.us. Bye.
Yes, thank you.